Okay, so here is the original file that we started with, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm just going to demonstrate a different way to break this into functions, okay? And this time we're going to use reference parameters. A reference parameter is used, in essence, if you want to return more than one thing from a function back to main, right? With a value returning function, we're limited. It only returns one. But with a reference parameter, you could return one, but often we return 2, 3, 4, or more values back to the main program. So I'm going to show you in this example. Oops, let me just take this out. It's left from before. Right here, we calculated two things, and when we used value returning functions, we had to write two separate functions for this. But if we use reference parameters, we could write one function that calculates both the discount and the final cost and returns them back to the main program. So I'm going to show you what this will look like. I'll call it calculate costs. Okay. Actually, I'm just going to call it calculate because we're calculating a discount and a final cost. Okay, so I want you to look here. This is where we're going to end up calling our function. That's where we took the code from. Okay. We're going to get the sticker price and the percentage, and then we're going to call this function to calculate two things, the discount and the final cost. So I need to know what the sticker is and the percentage. These were calculated in the main program, so they need to be passed in. These are value parameters, and we've talked about those in previous examples. Now, what we're doing in here is we're using these two values from main to calculate two new things, the discount and the final cost. And this is where you use a reference parameter. And I'll show you what it looks like. The difference between value parameters and reference parameters is the ampersand right here. And we talked about with value parameters, it actually takes a value from main and makes a copy of it in the function. With reference parameters, the main program and the function share the memory location. It's the same memory location. It doesn't have to have the same name, but it's the same memory location. So if you change it in the function, it will be changed in the main program. So in essence, you're calculating something, and then it's getting sent back to the main program because they're the same memory location. Okay? Okay, so also note here that sticker and percentage are just being used. They're not being changed. Discount and final cost are being changed. So that's really an indication that they should be reference parameters. And just for your information here, like, you don't have to have spaces around that. I probably tend to because I think it looks nicer. You know, it looks a little cleaner, but they're optional. All right, so same thing. We're going to copy and paste this so that we have a prototype. Put a semicolon at the end. And then I'm going to call my function right where I had those other statements. Okay, and there's the parameters for that. Okay, so The user is going to enter the sticker, percentage. Sticker and percentage will be passed to this function so you can use them. It's going to do this calculation and assign the result in discount. It's going to do this calculation and assign the result in final cost, and then it's going to take these two variables, discount and final cost, and send them back to the main program. And when they're going back because they're sharing the memory location. So that means when you come back from the function call, discount and final cost will have values in them. Okay, this is a void function. So again, it's a standalone statement, just a function call by itself. And I'm going to come up here for a second so you can see it's fine to have functions that just have value parameters. That's almost what you'll always find with a display function. Some can have both value and reference. If you are using the format that's kind of shown in the book a lot, where you don't put a variable name in the prototype or the function declaration, that's what it would look like when you're using reference parameters. But I tend to do that. Okay, here's another example of a place where we could use reference parameters. I'm going to write a function called getInfo, and it's going to do this. It's going to prompt the user for the sticker and their percentage, and then it's going to pass them back to the main program. So I'm going to take them out of here, and remember, this is where my function call is going to go after I write my function. Okay. Now, I want you to think about what's happening here. Sticker and percentage, right here at this point in the program, they don't have anything in them yet. This is the code that's going to assign values into them. So it doesn't make sense to make them value parameters. A value parameter means it already has something in it. These are going to be reference parameters. Okay. So we're going to get this from the user, we're going to get this from the user, and then because they're referenced, when they go back to the main program, they'll have information in there. So okay. So here's how it goes. The main program executes, it calls getInfo first. These guys are undefined, they don't have anything in them yet. We go to getInfo, right? It'll store information in sticker, right? It'll store the information entered by the user and percentage. That information will be returned back, so now that you have that information in main. Then it's going to call the calculate function, so it's going to pass sticker and percentage, right? We've been using 35,010. It's going to pass that out to the calculate function. So this will have 35,000, this will have 10, and then it's going to calculate these two. So this is going to be calculated, right? 35,000 times 10 divided by 100 is $3,500, and the final cost is $31,500. Now, because these are reference parameters, when I go back to the main program after the calculate call, right, this is going to have 500 in it, and this is going to have 31,500 in it. And then we're just going into our display function. Oh, get info identifier not found. Oh, okay. I never did a prototype for this function. So I'm going to copy this and paste it up at the top. And now I'll try that again. And there we go. Now, if you're comparing this example to the previous one, this is probably a little bit more efficient using reference parameters, but you have to understand as a programmer how to write value returning functions and how to write how to write void functions that have reference parameters, because there's really two ways to get information back to the main program. A value returning function will return just one thing back, and if you need to send more than one thing back, you can use reference parameters. So they both have, their own type of use, and you just have to understand how to use both of them.